Right. So the setup. Going, Johnny. Or as my tells me right now, J dot dot. Hope you're having a good morning. Guess I should probably check if code is in that. Does that only in the app? All right, I do want to grab some ice for my water real quick. I got coffee, waited, but I'm gonna want some colder water. Okay, how's it going, DJ Devin? Morning. All right. This one is. So we have icons that recognize, which we don't yet, but oh, okay, that's a good start. Yes, wants to stop, but it's seemingly right. Let's turn the off. CircuitPython developers been busy with new stuff. Got translations every other day. Nice. I mean, always. Okay, so let's see. I am gonna start this morning with. Well, so the plan today is a couple of different library PRs I have set aside to look at. In no particular order, except for the order that I think I'm gonna do them in is the turtle PR, which is fixing some examples, and then Portal Base, which I just noticed, which is changing, well, not changing over, but adding support for settings.toml inside of Portal Base. I'm definitely in favor of all the work going on to change that over, so I'm happy to take a minute to look at that. And then the other one I have, which probably will take up more time than those, is some more new goodies inside of HTTP server. like WebSockets and a thing I had not heard of before, but server sent events, which is I guess like push notifications from the server, but not really, because I think the client needs to still kind of pull or something. I don't really know how they work. But that's one of the things. WebSockets I'm more familiar with, and apparently they're similar, so maybe I know more about it than I think, but we shall see. But I'm gonna go turtle first. I think this one's probably gonna be quick. I think portal base probably should be quick as well. We'll see. But I have a portal Titano. We don't need the wires. And camera all set up just yet. This turtle is definitely a backporting stuff for S3 or I don't know if it came with stream. Plugged it in, but I never turned it back on. I used the top-down camera for something else earlier this week, and I didn't plug it in when I used it for that, and therefore its battery died. I did plug it back in at some point after that, but I never did turn it on. So that before we can down. That work? Not gonna. Interesting. Oops, I should have kept that. I guess maybe it's came up from cold. Bit bright, obviously on the top there. To the screen. Got the first requests. API merged. Yeah, for sure. With settings tell. So Turtle, I think the deal with this is that it just a couple of the examples did not work. I'm gonna delete it. Install Turtle. Open it in the as well. Let's do this new one. Open window. I should maybe make a script that will rename all origins to Adafruit. But they're not, but, well, okay, but I could check the... Yeah, I might do that. I could make a script that will go through all my repos. It will run get remote-v, and if it finds origin that is Adafruit, it will change it to Adafruit, and if it finds origin that is Foamy Guy, it'll change it to Foamy Guy. And if it finds anything different, then it will not touch it. Whoa. Jeez. How's it going, Secret River? For my coffee this morning. Although I had hot coffee earlier. But I put an ice cube in it to make it less hot. So the ice cubes reminds me of a baseball movie about the kid who breaks his arm and then can throw really good. It's Coke and then also overlaid Coke. So we're gonna go stock first. I'm gonna grab main branch version of this example. I'm gonna put that in CodePy as long as CodePy is not that important. That important? Like it's mostly the label simple test, but it does also have a little bit of difference from the simple test, but important. Okay, yeah, see, nothing really happened, or so we have this thing here, which is a little tough. Put in the sunlight there. We have this little thing, which I think is the cursor, if I recall correctly, for Turtle. I think you can hide or show it the Boolean, but nothing else happened. It didn't like draw anything else. My assumption is that is what gets fixed with PR. Let's try the other one too. Coke overlaid. This one. Yeah, same thing here. We have a cursor. This time I think the cursor is different color than last time. Possibly. I was going to say possibly even changing color, but I don't think it is. I think that's an artifact of the webcam and or the streaming effect too. Let's see. But it's still not really drawing anything besides the cursor. Unless I'm wrong and that's not actually the cursor, and instead what it's drawing is just really small. But that's the cursor. HPR list. HPR checkout 34 BRB. Here, nice. Yeah. For some reason, one of the things that out most of my mind from that movie is the like oddball coach guy or coach assistant or whatever who talks about heating up the ice cubes. They tried like hot packs and they tried ice packs, and he found the best of both worlds was heat up the ice cubes. I think, why do we have changes? Huh. I have no idea. Maybe that's there is a typing PR that's in the works that I did take a look at one point. I will be getting back to. Imagine why we'd be redeclaring go to the typing. Oh, right, that doesn't adding a... Oh. Oh, okay, right. This can do both. This must be related to that. This must have been I was investigating something for that typing PR. It's awkward because x1, it says if y1 is none, then x1 must be a pair of coordinates. So it's not strictly typed, essentially, right? x1 could be a single coordinate, an x value, or the variable that's named x1, i.e. the first argument of this function, could be a tuple which contains 2 points that are, one of them is x1 and one of them is actually y1. So it could be a single point, a single int, or it could be an entire point, ints together. And I think this was a potential way to type it. So what we're going to do is stash that. Get stash. I don't use stash very much. Where's it at? I know it's in here. Uncommitted. Yeah, stash under typing, go to stuff. Okay. And we should be able to check this out, hopefully. Okay. Go back to regular Coke first. There we go. Now we got some action going. It's a little bit off the screen. Although it might be made... right on a PyPortal. Like, it runs without modification on the Pythano, but because of this, portal size, I think it's 320 by 240. Yes. Not seen that use of pass and overload decorator. I make no claims that that works as intended, or does anything, or doesn't crash. Yeah, I do not vouch for that code just because I wrote it and it appeared on my screen. I don't vouch for it at this point in time. So yeah, I don't know for sure if that's valid or not, but if it works like how I was intending it, to be able to allow that function to have better documentation about the fact that it can have differing first argument types and indeed differing number of arguments. If it works for that, then it's pretty cool. But at this point, I can't promise you that. I don't know for sure if I tested it or ran it or did anything with it besides writing it and leaving it there for myself in the future to find today. So it's more on the screen if we do that, but it is still off the screen a bit. We maybe just change the starting location. What was the change? It was... the logic here. If depth... oh, interesting. Okay, it used to be if depth not equal to 0, then do some stuff. Now it's if depth is equal to 0, then go forward by side length and return. Implicitly else, if depth was not 0, then we all this stuff, which is looking like basically the same stuff. So it says pin up, go to, pin down. Generations 3, top side, lambda F. So it feels to me like this is going to the starting point, right? Could we make that the center of the screen? I was not doing what I thought I was doing. Or there's a scale? Is there a scale? I don't know, because we don't have a group. I don't really know how turtle works. I haven't messed with turtle that much. It must be containing the group ultimately. Swap back. I don't know. It'd be nice if we could get this to be more onto the screen, but I don't exactly see how to do that. Possible that changing this could help, but run it how it actually is. It's a little bit bigger, but also it's still like further off the screen. I mean, we want to go down some, right? We could try just editing this a little bit. Like, what do we say? Is that down by 10? Anything, that was up by 10. Is that more on the screen? I don't know. Oh, it's definitely making a difference. Okay. So unit is 1/4 of the height. I want to change unit itself, but changing the go-to here is kind of... Might be worth checking that on a PyPortal and seeing how it ends up. If it's on the screen for both, then I'm in favor of that. I don't think it's really worth pulling up this PR for either, though, because like the PR does make it do something, which is a lot better than nothing. And tweaking the location is like something that could come afterwards easily. So I will let me grab back to the PR version of this. Code. Change. Check it out, 2 clipboards. Good, so let's do overlaid. Let me see. overload. I'm probably not super well equipped to answer it. Decorator. I could tell you what my Java trained brain thinks it does, but I can't tell you for certain what it actually does in Python, so I'd rather not guess and mislead you. Call to the same named method but with different arguments. Would normally inheriting class to overload a function in the base class. Yeah, I do. Again, if it does actually work how I wrote it there, that is super handy for typing. Yeah. Later. Bananas are pretty nice though. If you're gonna be stuck with only one food, banana's a pretty good choice. Would an implicit else have the same indent? I think I'm behind the chat a little bit. I'm not sure what I had up. I mean, this is when I was talking about the implicit else. And in this case, it does have the same indent as the if that's what you mean. It does not have the indented level, but if it did say else like this, then it would be indented, and the code as it's written now, best of my understanding, functions identical as the code as it's written now. I gotcha. Yeah, return instead of break in there. Yeah. Okay, let's grab overlaid. One. Yeah, no worries. Ooh, that's nice. So it looks like it's doing I don't know the proper term, but like each one is more generations, maybe? Each one is more detail. It's like an extra cycle of iteration, an extra cycle of recursion. And they're overlaid on top, and each one is drawn with a different color. This one does spawn basically in the middle of the screen, too. I wonder if we could take whatever... Well, that's interesting. I don't know why... The heading? The only difference? I don't know why this one got centered so well. Set heading 90. I wonder if we... Does not have that one over here. That's what got it to the middle. Set heading 90 would basically control the direction it's facing. But that shouldn't matter for GoTo because I don't think GoTo cares about what direction it's facing. I think it just goes to the position you give it. Matter's named early exit. Oh, interesting. Didn't know there was a name for it. Corresponding anti-pattern is nested ifs. Avoid at all costs. Huh. I call myself quite that strict. Left corner offset. I think it's... Oh, in the drawing, how they're like slightly shifted to the left or whatever, basically, kind of like... Yeah, this point here aligns on every single one, but I guess the way the recursion works out, the other 2 points of the triangle, which is the base shape, not overlap exactly. It looks like maybe 1/3 and then 2/3. I don't know if that's actually true or just my eye and for the pattern. You know what I found out on the topic of code style and stuff? There's a new PyCharm that's releasing, or perhaps already did release, the 2023.2 that has better integration with Black now, so you can have Black instead of the built-in formatter, which seems interesting. I use the built-in formatter a lot. It'd be nice to have it just directly tied to Black. I haven't updated to that version, but I saw the release the other day. Successfully on, we're on a Pi portal. Oh, Pi. You know, I have no idea what version. Probably something. I'd update it. Go beta. Where are we up? And submitting code to projects that are strict on code style. I gotcha. I mean, yeah, CircuitPython is, I would say CircuitPython generally more strict than I am myself with just code that I write for fun or even with code that I write for work. I would say CircuitPython's style guides are more strict for sure. Which has its benefits for sure. But it is a thing where I don't like instinctually necessarily write the code to follow it. But I do rely on the IDE a lot. Like Control-Alt-L is the hotkey in the IDE for format code. And if that was running Black, then I would be accidentally, so to speak, writing formatted code better. Just because I do actually use that quite a bit. I'll have to run Black manually on a new file before commit. I don't think you would have to. If you use Control-Alt-L, then it should make, as far as I understand it, it should make the same modifications that running Black manually or through pre-commit or some other thing like that. It should make the same changes as far as I understand it. So if you did Control-Alt-L, or if you configured the automatic, I think there's a way you can make it automatic as well, but I don't use that. Then I think the code that comes out of that should just be, you know, quote unquote correct. It should be accepted by Black as long as you got the same versions and everything else. All. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it did come back up and draw. It's fine. I don't add that up. Make a release. I'm always trying to be in the habit of, if I try to make the release right away. I do sometimes. This one, it could definitely be minor because technically it didn't even change the library. In fact, the only reason we really want to make sure to make the release right now is because the we want the new examples to show up as example zip. I think also gets included in the bundle or something. You can download it somewhere. It's like, honestly, the only two changes were the examples, so there's difference in the code, but just so that the new examples get out there. Did in Black do not play nicely with GitHub Desktop Windows out? Yeah, I have not used the desktop app too much. I did download it and was tinkering with it for a little bit, but somewhat quickly fell back out of the habit of that. Like in my world, Git is either the interfaces inside PyCharm or the terminal. I rely on both of those two things probably almost equal point. It used to be a lot more that I relied on the IDE and not the terminal at all. Time goes on though, I pick up more and more stuff that I can actually manage to do with the terminal and not mess everything up, which is the hard part because like I've spent plenty of time terminal just wrecking my local Bo instance. Dot or circle while in Radian's mode appears to freeze the program for a number of seconds as it draws small lines for dot. Very familiar with dot or circle. I'd say maybe if that's the case where it just, I mean, does it work but need different values? Shouldn't it still work but just need different values? Because radians to degrees is just a multiplier. Is that true? 360 degrees is 2 radians or 5 radians? Way to look at portal base. This one real quick. So this is basically making it so that if you're using settings.toml, stuff can still. It is work fine, I think. But as we need some sample code that's default, like it is. Okay, so portal base is frozen in. Means if we want to be using an edited one, we have to put it in the root. Start doing pull from the setting. Oh, okay. Okay. I just let's go main state origin. It, friendly, but eventually found out it has limited capabilities. Noting if you have a PyPortal or any device using Airlift with 8275, if you're intending snapper. Was asking me certs. Probably what he. Okay. Check something over here. Briefly that you're allowed to see, which is that I created a settings.toml file and I'm about to put some stuff into it. Hope it's gone already. It was putting the splash screen, the little snake going through the portals. Nice. That worked successfully. Loaded from settings.toml. What I'm about to do is change settings.toml to be called something else. And put CircuitPy back. Sure, it works that way as well. Actually, let's do it once like this, where we have neither and fail. So it might succeed because it's connected before. If we cold boot it, fail. The workflow. Wait, done. Philosophically, the ultimate format checker is the CircuitPython interpreter. That's true. I would subscribe to that philosophy. It has to interpret the code. The extent that it works and does what the programmer expects, then adding is correct. But There are some more correct, I guess. Correct. There are some that are easier to look at, easier to read. Some people, though, the other thing, right? Like, it's painted as a this is just is easier to read, but the truth is every person is different and every person probably reads code differently. Different code will be easier to read for different people. Even if you don't account for the fact that people just have different like code that's more similar to what they've written will be easier for any person to read. But I think even aside from that, if you could somehow start with blank slates of people who never did any programming before and get them to the point where they could read code, my hypothesis is different people would just be able to read different variations of the code better. Some people would be able to read the ones that Pilot and Black tell you are best better, but I think other people might be able to read ones that are counter to what Pilot and Black say is correct. That's also just hypothesis. I find Black easier to read. I think it appears to me heavily aimed at like a terminal or an environment where your number of columns is small, which is not really the case on modern displays and stuff. Like, if you're intending to keep your code in this, whatever this line is, so that it will fit in a terminal and not wrap too much, then Black, I think, helps you achieve that pretty well. But there are definitely some cases where it's a little new line happy, or sometimes it does just spit stuff out that looks weird to me as well. Other DVI, it's column limited. Oh yeah, if you're trying, like, if you mean like if you're showing the serial terminal or whatever, the serial console on the actual HDMI output, or well, HDMI output, but on the output that comes out of the HDMI plug. Yeah. Yeah, that one's a little weird. That one, it's like using the parentheses as brackets in a way. Like, I write my code with brackets in that format, but Python doesn't use brackets very much, only dictionaries. It's kind of like they did what I would have done with brackets, but they've done it with parentheses. It could have just been a one-liner. I think I'll just approve this for now and not merge. I don't know if we time anything. I mean, ultimately, it'll need to be the frozen one will need to be updated inside the core, so this needs to be timed with that, or there's other stuff that we're updating. if there's, so it can merge it if it's, or hold off if it's not. Okay. I'll look at this one next, but I do gotta run to the restroom real quick, so BRB. Okay. Coffee in the morning kicks your digestive into overdrive. Make me pee. Okay. This has got new functionality for the server sent thing, and then WebSocket's WebSocket request. That means the request that upgrades you to a WebSocket. Does that mean this can be as this WebSocket? It shows the new functionality, server.add routes for adding routes that, for example, are defined in a separate file, not have access to the server object. That's kind of cool. Then you can define your routes separately from your main code file, or if you have like particularly complex application, you could separate your routes into different modules. Pretty convenient. That's definitely something that's done a lot on web frameworks like the larger world of Python. Audio's cutting in and out. Seems okay. Okay. Put the this back. Honestly, I was kind of far away from it. I wouldn't be surprised if the ducking is the right term, but noise gate, that's what it is. I wouldn't be surprised if I just got it cut off by the noise gate because that was a bit too far. Direction slightly as well. Yep. As route, a decorator for converting handler functions into route objects. Try to keep an eye on the bouncer thing as well. Maybe this. Let's see. Are we quite all the way? Let's do that. I don't know. That will kick it up just a tiny bit. Not sure if that's before or after the noise gate though, so I don't know how it factors in. So I don't quite get that one. Decorator for converting handler functions to route objects. Oh, okay. So if you define your routes in another file, this decorator allows you to do that. With a decorator as opposed to, I guess you could probably do it somehow without, by importing and then doing something, but I don't know. All response classes, except for the new ones, explicitly close the socket. See, upload changed second point. Not sure what, if second, I don't know what second point, I guess. I don't know what second point. Second point. Oh, updated. Okay. Second point inside. I'm with you. If server poll, excuse me, in server poll, there's not a with statement anymore. We took out the with statement. The socket has to stay open if the connection's going to stay open. Yeah, that seems fair. I haven't looked at the code, but that definitely makes sense to me. Wow. Got a lot of new stuff in here. What is hashlib for? In base 64. Interesting. Not 75. Much better and more normal. Nice. I'll try to, yeah, I don't always, I find the volumes up here are fairly random. Like when I turn the computer on for the day, there's really no telling which volumes are going to be selected and even which outputs, honestly. It seems to change from day to day, and have not pinned it to a pattern or a particular reason on why it lands on what it lands on. Sometimes I don't remember to turn it up in there. And I do find that like OBS does respect the volume that's in here for the microphone at least. Although I don't know how it interacts with the noise gate specifically. I do know that if I turn that down, I get quieter, or at least the bar doesn't bounce as high. I assume I'm quieter. Closing the connection for the file response. It's going to be for all the response types, right? Like all these different extending response are now going to have a closed connection, except for the new ones. Because they keep the connection open. How does that work, though? Then can you... How does the server send more stuff again afterwards? Yeah, I'm curious, though, why this library would need it. Send event. Okay, this is probably how we send another thing. Interesting. Yeah, so the server send event is fascinating to me. Is that, how new is this? Like, I literally don't think I have ever heard of this ever. Is there like a Wikipedia? Sudan conflict, Leviathan Falls, Utrecht of Bamberg. Exactly. There's Mozilla. This is not like date stamped exactly. I mean, there's maybe a changed timestamp. And there's versions for the when it became supported, which I guess we could try to correlate back to dates, but I don't know that I'm looking to go quite that far to figure out Ah, okay, there is a Wikipedia, but we just did it wrong, I guess. Wait, that hyphen is like really freaking important, huh? I'm not crazy, right? I did search this like exact thing, but without the hyphen? Maybe Google changed my search or something. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. We ended up in a totally weird place. So apparently the lesson is, well, not Google. I guess would be DuckDuckGo. The bang W for some reason does not work very good. HTML5. So new-ish, but not brand new at this point. Originally conceived long, long ago. Browser age, at least. In web technology age. I'm surprised I never heard of this. I've heard of long polling, which is another technique to achieve a similar thing, but okay. And then whenever you are actually done, you'll want to call close, I presume. Specialized version of response for creating a WebSocket connection allows two-way communication between the client and server. So my assumption is we are the server. The code that we'll be running in CircuitPython is the server. That's my assumption. I don't know if it's correct or not, but that's super cool if that's what this actually does. Fair? Yeah, it's also fair. Oh, interesting. Okay, so we create a WebSocket variable, and then in our handler, we create the WebSocket response type and return that, but also keep it in our variable. And that response object becomes now our WebSocket interface. We call receive, we call send message, we call close. What is this? Why would we need that? Okay. Is it the same? It must be the same, right? That's so strange. You just have to pass this back and forth? Hmm. That is so crazy. Did they write this by hand, or did just like one fateful day somebody generated this and now it's just like stuck in there? It's so weird. All right, well, fair enough. Should close this so I don't actually submit it. HTTP server security makes sense that it's not using HTTPS. I mean, I'm aware kind of like how it's used with security, but I don't see how this library specifically is going to use it, but we'll find it when I do a search on it here in a minute if we don't run across it. Yeah. Just an idea. I mean, it's not a salt. It doesn't look like it's added to anything. No, not really security, I don't think either, though. Like, just identification. I don't think, like, it does not add and doesn't seem to me, really be interested in adding any sort of security, just a unique identification. Its purpose is to try to be reasonably sure that the program sending the request is intending to initiate a WebSocket connection. But it's not really secure because it's not private. It's not like a password or anything like that. It's just, this is the string they could have just chosen the string WebSocket, right? Probably. They could have just said, hey, the type of connection is WebSocket. But I guess the fear is that the term WebSocket might have been used in some other software somewhere at some point in time. Therefore, we're going to choose a random, well, I don't know if it was random, but we're going to choose a unique new string and use that instead of the word WebSocket because it's, hopefully guaranteed to have never been used and never will be used for any other reason in any other networking software. It is odd, though. I don't know of any other connection that has such a... I don't know of any other connection protocol that goes to the lengths of having a unique identifier that's that big and non-descriptive. WebSocket key. That's where our hash lib is at. I think I've used, is this WSS? I don't know how this, what is this? 2013, this is old. It is salted. I spoke too soon, I guess. Yeah, it's added to whatever you pass here. So it is kind of pretty much being used as a salt with this getting appended together. And then hashed, then base 64 encoded, and then returned. Any server could return the expected key if they wanted and pretend they're a WebSocket server. See, I would say any server could return the key if they wanted. That's true. But in my mind, it's not pretending it's a WebSocket server. At that point, it is a WebSocket server. If it's returning this, then it just is a WebSocket server, not really pretending to be. How is that true? I don't really get how this is true, though. Wouldn't the thing that's abusing HTTP clients just make their thing work like this? Aren't they just going to use this mechanism? Am I missing? Maybe I'm not understanding why it couldn't be used in that context, I guess. Okay. This paragraph aligns more with my current understanding. Like this is really what you want for security. The GUID, I guess they're saying, yeah, I don't know. Protocol violation. Nobody wants a protocol violation. My goodness. Interesting. I never knew about any of this stuff. I don't think I've used this before. I've used WSS, but I don't think this factors into that. I don't think you have to use this header for that. But maybe you do, and I just didn't realize I was doing it. That's also a possibility. Which is why we need hashlib, because the protocol says we have to take whatever they sent to us, whatever the client sent to us. I think this is more proof that we are the WebSocket server, which is pretty sweet. We have to take whatever the client sent to us. We have to add it to this magic string. We have to SHA1 hash and then base 64. Give that back to the client. Presumably, they're going to verify that we did that correctly. Like, we don't have any way to enforce them to do that either. The client could just choose to ignore that response, right? Do whatever it wants anyway. This is fascinating because I've never seen this deep into WebSockets. I've only used them. I've used frameworks to make WebSocket servers, and I've used libraries to make WebSocket clients. And when I say make WebSocket servers, I mean like implement my custom logic, my behavior into a WebSocket server, not like create a WebSocket server like this is doing. More so like define a couple of functions that handle certain messages inside the WebSocket channel. This is like nitty-gritty make WebSockets work by communicating correctly with the client, which is a fascinating peek underneath the hood that I've never had. How's it going, K-Match? Good morning. Yeah, probably. The original developer of that laughs every time. There's no randomized portion. I mean, I think the idea is the client's supposed to send something random. Whatever the client sends, the server needs to include. So as a client, you're, I think, supposed to choose something unique and random to you. Right. I mean, I like I said, though, I don't think it's trying not to be cracked. I don't think it's trying to add security. I think it's only trying to prove that the server and the client both are capable of WebSocket communication. But I do also think the clients would be encouraged to send something unique and random as that part that they send, which then gets added together, hashed in 64, encoded, and returned. Potentially even a public key portion or something signed with a public key or whatever. That's really what you could do probably is like make your random string and sign it and then validate it after you get it back. Maybe that's what WSS does. I don't know. That's what WSS though. The protocol WSS instead of just WS, I think, is what you want for security. Nothing that you could add to WS : is like really security. I don't think, especially not this. This seems more so just validate we both speak the same language. Validate we're both capable of WebSocket communication. Could not use a pen slash. Okay, yeah, if you say, that's fair, I guess. If you say a pen slash, but you did put your own slash, then you get the exception. Interesting. I thought there was still an underscore route. Maybe there is, but now there's a private one. Maybe there's one that's not underscore anymore. Yeah. Protocol exchange, handshake. Zip. Oh, that's not zip though, not like gzip. That's Python zip, like turn it into a list or something. Turn it into a dictionary, maybe. Call a function for each thing in a list, maybe. Something like that. Their decorator. So basically, it feels like the fundamental shift in this one is like previously the handlers were quote unquote just functions, and now the handlers have been turned into route objects. Which makes them easier to pass around as imports, but you could import functions too. I guess the key is it's not necessarily doing something you couldn't do, it's just giving you better code for it. Not sure exactly though. A route can only be used once per function. Oh, interesting. That's different, I think. I think there used to be an example that was doing this. Guessing it's one of the ones that changed. List of route objects. They should probably change, or they probably should have chosen a different name for the header. Because the header does have sec in it, which I guess kind of implies security. I don't know if it's actually meant to be a shorthand version of security. I mean, maybe that's what they had for security before they realized that it wasn't secure. Maybe it's old enough that that's what they considered security originally. I think definitely not in the modern implementation, though. Is that meant to be counted on as a secure part of the system, just as identifying both sides are capable of communicating in this way? Oh man, what are we doing here? A little YouTube pause on us. Yeah, there you go. A product key was actually the first thing I thought of when I saw it. Some boards could do SSL if they wanted. M0 would fall flat. Yeah. I don't know too much about how it decides to do that and which ones would be cool. This part I'm familiar with. I definitely have seen this before, the 101 and the switching protocols. That's what gets returned when you do switch to WebSocket. Emphasize changed. Server send events. All types of responses until now were synchronous, meaning the response was sent immediately after the handler function returned. However, sometimes you might want to send data to the client at a later time, e.g. when some event occurs. This could be overcome. I'm not going to pretend like I know the proper way to do that. By periodically polling the server, but it's not elegant. Instead, you could use server sent events. How does server sent events differ from long poll? Response is initialized on return. Events can be sent using send event. Due to the nature of SSE, it's necessary to store the response object somewhere so it could be accessed later. Because of the limited number of concurrently open sockets, it's not possible to process more than one SSE response at a time. Might change in the future, but for now it's recommended to only use it with one client. We'll take a look at the example. Although SSE provides a simple way to send data from the server to client, not suitable for sending data the other way around. Interesting, from the client to the server. For that purpose, you could use WebSockets. They are more complex than SSE, but they provide persistent two-way communication channel between client and server. Remember that because WebSockets also receive data, you have to explicitly call receive on the WebSocket object. It's analogous to calling poll on the server. Yeah, I was thinking about that at one point. I wonder if it'd be possible to add something inside poll that would call receive for us. It would be nice if we could just keep calling poll in our user code. Interesting. You can still use the old server.route, but there's also the new as route. I wonder what's the difference. Oh, I think server route. So server route, you know, quote unquote, registers the route right away. As soon as the code executes that declares the function that has that decorator server route, at that point, it is now registered. The next time you call poll, it's eligible to get called from the client. As route, I think, is different in that it's giving you an object and you later need to call add route and pass in the function. Why would you do this? This is like the most JavaScript Python I've ever seen, I think. Nice. I like that both examples are self-contained. In both examples, the client side is the JavaScript inside the page, which is nice because we don't need separate script. We could take this window. Server sent events is returning a stream with content. Type text event stream. You send data. You send it data colon and whatever as needed. JavaScript Python sounds really scary. Yeah. Adafruit released a new Learn guide called Device Script that's supposed to be JavaScript developer friendly for CircuitPython. Interesting. Oh, maybe I did hear about this. You know, this is not, yeah, this was just published like a couple days ago. I wonder if this is tied to Esperino. Esperino was a device that was doing this a long time ago. Running JavaScript on the Mac. Maybe the difference is TypeScript specifically, I guess. I can't go to them. There it is. Okay, there we go. It's a project to bring TypeScript. Maybe specifically Esperino was only JavaScript and not TypeScript. I don't know. But the original one of these came out a long time ago, probably over a decade at this point, and it was able to run JavaScript. You could also, did you use this on the? I think it was a different thing on the microbit. I learned about it around the time this came out. I got these through Kickstarter whenever they launched. It's pretty neat. Although it does, if I recall right, you have to use their specific editor. This looks like VS Code, so I guess this new one is integrating with VS Code, which is pretty sweet. That's a total guess based on the look of this, but... Esperino predates TypeScript. I gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I think both, in fact. Or, well, Esperino could go back and forth, actually. Yeah, this one maybe not. Yeah, this one probably not, actually, because I don't think VS Code has Blockly or anything inside of it. So that's another good... That's a good call out as a difference. Yeah, Esperino, it had, you could do JavaScript, but you could bounce back and forth between JavaScript and Blockly, which I think is like super cool for folks just learning how to code, because you could convert back and forth. So like if you drag some Blocklys out, then you can look at the code that goes along with it, or vice versa, which I think is super helpful for folks who are just learning. Okay, we're inside docs. Let's get up here. We can pull updating GHPR list. $63. Okay. We do need a different device. This one doesn't go on the PyPortal. Luckily for us, I have other TFT S3, which is upside down, but let's give it another loop-de-loop here. You know what? I'm just not going to touch that. Just not going to touch that. have a activation pop up on the phone, but somehow the webcam is actually still working, so. All right, I'm going to do WebSocket first since I've actually done that before. Usenet simple server. You don't need to keep that. That's in the repo. Save this. This should fail because we don't have the new version of the library. Or perhaps even any version. No, yeah, the new version, I think, specifically. Let's delete the old version. Oops. Grab the new one. MakeCode is like that. Well, that's true. Yeah, I think MakeCode is a little bit JavaScripty. Can go back and forth as well. I do own one Esperino device. Gave up due to lack of sensor support. DeviceScript is basically a replacement for CircuitPython. A different kind. A different thing. I mean, an alternative, I would say, more so than a replacement. I don't think either one really replaces the other, but they both serve similar purposes. The thing I like about both is they bring different audiences on board. Like, DeviceScript is really cool to me because there is a massive amount of web developers in the world. There's a massive amount of people who understand JavaScript in the world, who don't have any other, who don't understand microcontrollers or electronics, perhaps. And DeviceScript bridges that. It makes it super easy for people who were/are web developers with no microcontroller training to be able to get into microcontrollers and hit the ground running. Which CircuitPython does effectively the same thing for folks that know Python, and then it also aims to hopefully be simple enough that you can accomplish the most basic of things without any prior knowledge as well. Although it can be a bumpy road if you have like literally zero programming. Sometimes you'll have to do some learning in the process, but okay, so we should just be able to hit the page, which is at /client. And then the page is going to hit connect WebSocket. Okay, we need to rerun it. I don't have, I have auto reload turned off. 226. But there's no like index, but we want /client. Okay, and then does it auto connect or? Yeah, it looks like it. So we automatically connected and then we received the message hello from server. Oh, we are just constantly sending that back and forth. Means we're probably spamming over here as well. Saw it in there somewhere. There it is. Okay, so there's something sending constantly, but then, yeah, set interval. It's funny that I coincidentally chose the exact same thing that was here, so we kind of didn't really get to see the first time I did it, but that's all right. Set interval, so every 1 second the client says hello. When you click, it sends whatever you put in the input. And then on the server side, not familiar enough with Walrus. I don't really know what this is doing. What does this take to? WebSocket.receive true. What do we pass true for? Fail silently. So I guess true means if it does fail, the only sort of noticeable way to tell would be that the return is going to be none, which I'm guessing means Walrus operator basically is like, do this and store the result in here, and then also check the value of this against this. And if that does all equate to true, then by the time you get inside of here, message will have whatever none value that it got from this. And we also are sending every second this message. Okay. I am excited to make more examples. I actually have an idea for an example that uses this in mind, which I'm probably not going to get into today. As far as making it, but I'll say what it is, which is I want to make a web page that will be receiving data sent by the server, and the data that the server is going to be sending is accelerometer data from a connected accelerometer. And then on the page, what I would like to do is use this JavaScript library to render something like a 3D model, and then use the accelerometer to control the orientation of the model. So like if this was our model, it would... Oh, this one has a moving bus, which is pretty crazy. If this was our model, then like as I move the accelerometer, this thing would move on the screen. It's moving too, which is pretty nice. This is a pretty crazy model. Even the arm on this little cat, wow. Dang, that's pretty crazy. That was the first thing that I thought of using WebSockets for. And I would love an example that's like that, that's more visual. Right now, the example is 1000% completely bare bones functional. In fact, if you're not looking at the console or the network tab, then you're probably not even going to be able to know anything is happening. Or maybe the serial in here, I guess, as well, too. Something visual on the page, I think, will be really, really nice to have eventually. But it does appear to be functional, which I'm super stoked about. Let's try the server sent. I think we could probably... I guess just all of this code has been getting copyrighted under Dan. So Dan wrote the original library. I hadn't noticed before, but it looks like Michael is just always using Dan's name. Let's ask if they are okay with putting their own name in, or if that's a thing they're not really interested in doing. I'm not sure if they don't want their name here, and that's why they didn't do it, or if it's just like simply copy-paste and didn't think about it. If it was copy-paste and didn't think about it, and if they're open to the idea of doing it, then I would say definitely let's put their name in there. Michael Pokusa is basically like, I would say honestly, kind of the champion of this repo right now, as far as like the person who's doing the most to improve it currently and in recent past. Does not make them understand no, it doesn't make them understand microcontrollers, but it gives them an avenue to be able to learn microcontrollers without having to first sit down and learn a lot of stuff like C or the ways that you used to be able to program microcontrollers, even Arduino. If they already know JavaScript and you can now use JavaScript on the microcontroller, it means they get to use more of their prior knowledge, is kind of what it is. It means that step one doesn't have to be sit down and gain a massive new section of prior knowledge and then start to actually play with microcontrollers. Instead, it's kind of like you can sit down and make the light go with JavaScript without too much extra prior knowledge. You need to get it wired up properly, so you're going to need something, but bridge is a good way to describe it. Free sample to get you hooked. A drug dealer. I once started learning CircuitPython, didn't want to play with anything else, yeah. Completely ignored PHP. Man, I've been learning a little bit about PHP in the last few days. I am scared of PHP, but it stands to reason because what I've been learning about are security vulnerabilities, so... I think in ancient versions of PHP too. I don't know what version they're up to, but some of this stuff is fairly silly, the way that it is implemented in the stuff I've been learning about. Web work is virtual reality in a way. Microcontrollers are just reality with physical devices. Things you can touch or feel. It's more gratifying for some people. Some people, I think, are happy to just do stuff on the screen as well. But there are lots of people who definitely get more gratification and just have more fun and learn better when they can interact in a way more in depth than just seeing it on the screen. They can feel it and hold it and see lights and things moving and stuff. Definitely helps some people. WebGL has come a long way. Yeah, WebGL is insane. Learn CircuitPython meetings that add for Adafruit Industries. Yeah. That's true, yeah. For Adafruit Industries, the way it was explained to me is like if it is code that you are paid to write, effectively, right? Like if you made a guide and there's code in it and you were paid for the guide, then it would have that. Or if you created a library and we're paid for the time to create the library. Yeah. So like if you'll find lots of stuff for me that has that if it's something I worked on specifically at their direction, and then you'll find lots of other stuff for me that's just like I did this in my own time, did not get paid for it. Is kind of the difference, the way it was explained to me at least. All right, let's try the old SSE one here real quick. Oops, I accidentally Control-C'd an extra time. Do we need... Let's look at the URLs, actually, I don't know. So yeah, same thing. Okay, so client / client we want again. So we'll just that, and it'll be a different page now. Sweet, yeah. So the way it turns out is this is actually a tad closer to like my example with the accelerometer, because in this case we're actually being fed live data. We have a purpose for our data that's going back and forth rather than just chirping, being like hello, 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 hello. This one is actually like take a reading from a sensor, in this case the CPU's temperature, and send it in. I would try to like put my finger over it, but I don't really know where it's at, and I can't reach it on the underside. This one happens to be, I think the main chip is on the back, so I can't really reach it to affect the temperature very easily, but it does look like it's working. I will say it would be nice on this one as well if it would plop that value onto the screen. I think that would go a long way towards making it approachable to folks who haven't used it before or don't necessarily understand what it is. But if you are coming from the web development world and you already know what it is, then you'll know to check the console and you'll see that it's working and you'll be able to build whatever you want, I'm sure. Did I actually post that question? I did not. It's a weird dichotomy, though, to imagine a person who doesn't have much web development experience, but who's also like literally implementing an HTTP server. CircuitPython, though, is like it brings these people together, right? It puts these tools in people's hands who don't necessarily have the background that you would ordinarily get. Okay. I think once I incorrectly used it in the gifted sense just as a contributor. I would say too, it's not like, I don't think it's super strict either. Like if it's wrong in some spot, it's not that big a deal. To the best of my knowledge, at least. When I started, I was just copy pasting the header. Yeah, I think that happens in some spots as well. Yeah. No. Yep, just any name. Started putting my name. Yeah. Yep. All right. I think I'm going to wrap it up there for now. This one I'm curious to see from Michael to get a response back about that. If they're interested in changing their name, I'm down for that. If they want to make this change, I would definitely be happy about it and merge it after that. If they don't want to make that change now, I think that's fine as well. This could still be merged because it appears to work and do what it's supposed to do. And changing those examples could always be a follow-up PR as well. Especially if we are going to go down the road of something like this. This is a totally new example, I think. Definitely not the simple test example, right? This one is much, much, much more in depth than that. But so something like that certainly could come in the future. But just spitting it onto the page, I think, would be nice. But like I said, not a deal breaker, not a hold up this for it. But we'll see. They're wonderful. Adafruit's so wonderful about attribution when they agreed to accept no attribution needed gift of one of my device drivers to support a new wing. They painstakingly included anyway. Nice. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's nice. Like, if somebody helped you out, I think it's always just nice to be like, this person helped me out with this code. That's always just a nice thing to do. So I definitely appreciate that they do that as well. All right, I'm going to take off for now. Hope everybody has a good rest of your day and a good weekend and all of that. I will see you next time. I actually left before the end of Deep Dive last night, so I don't know what all, if anything, Scott said about next week. There's some chance that I might be on Deep Dive for next week, but I am not sure yet. So I don't know if he mentioned it with any certainty or not, but to the best of my knowledge, there's some chance I might be around for Deep Dive next week. But most weeks are going to be him moving forward for the time being, and then I'll still be here Saturday mornings doing this stream. And that's kind of the plan, but I'll fill in on Fridays when he is gone, which may happen this next Friday, but we'll have to see for sure, because like I said, I don't know for certain. Yeah, that's all I got for now. Take it easy, everybody. I will see you next time. Thanks for hanging out.